women want to start or change careers but find reasons why they can't or shouldn't. Despite varying obstacles, there are many success stories. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll examine some of the challenges and success stories that African women experience on the continent and in the diaspora on their journey to entrepreneurship. Hello, I'm Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. One major issue African women face when going into business on the continent and in the diaspora is access to financing. There is a $42 billion access to financing gap for women entrepreneurs in Africa. Black business owners who apply for funding in the U.S. have a rejection rate that is 3 times higher than that of white business owners. And they are more likely to identify access to credit as a challenge. And that's according to JP Morgan Wealth Management, an investment management bank in the US. On today's episode of Our Voices, we'll look closely at the experiences of women on the continent and in the diaspora as they work towards climbing the ladder towards owning a successful business. In rural areas, women are farmers, small business entrepreneurs, and investors who dedicate most of their earnings to the well-being of their families and societies. Mombasa reporter Amina Chombo visited women who farm seaweed along the southern coast of Kenya. Grace Oyenubi narrates.
Zuzi Bamvua grows cassava and other vegetables near her home in Yumbasita, a village on Kenya's southern coast. But a decade ago, she turned to agriculture as a way to make a better living for herself and her family. She and 29 other villagers, mostly women, started a group to cultivate seaweed commercially.
Seaweed farming has helped me to buy cows and get milk. It helped my kids to go to school, so I'm very thankful. Sometimes we struggle because of the wind, but if the ocean is calm, then seaweed farming is very good compared to other types of farming.
Seaweed such as kelp is rich in nutrients and good for human consumption. Seaweed also is an ingredient in foods as well as in medicine, toothpaste, cosmetics, fertilizer, according to the Borgon Project, a non-partisan group that fights poverty. Bamvua says the group can harvest seaweed every 45 days. Most of the harvest in coastal Kenya gets exported to Tanzania, which buys and then resells it to countries such as Denmark, Spain, France, and the United States. Bakari Vamvua, chairman and advisor to the Yumbasita group, says seaweed farming has improved the lives of women, many of whom have limited formal education.
We have started building better houses. We harvest seaweed, we make soaps, lotion, and sell them. We also have future plans.
The drought affecting much of East Africa is less of a problem with seaweed farming, but Mama Binti Mohammed, one of the Yumbasita farmers, points out other obstacles: simplistic technology for drying the seaweed and limited space to store it.
We need a better method to dry seaweed during the rainy season and not waste it. We have no storage, we have no drying tables, so we depend on the sun to dry. But when the rain comes, it destroys our seaweed.
Esther Ngulo, who directs Mombasa County's Office of Gender and Youth, says rural women face another barrier to business.
Most of the time, information doesn't reach the villages where they live, so they aren't aware of loan opportunities or entrepreneurship training offered in towns.
Pilot projects in commercial seaweed farming started in Kenya and Tanzania in the 1980s. Seaweed farming has taken off in the Tanzanian archipelago of Zanzibar. The region exported $5.2 million worth of the crop in 2019, ABC News reported, citing Bank of Zanzibar data. Seaweed farming's growth has been slower in Kenya, but is picking up thanks to farmers like Bamvua.
We saw that seaweed farming is good and now we are managing it.
Researchers say seaweed farming is also good for the environment, providing habitat for marine life and reducing the risk of coastal erosion. For Amina Chombo in Mombasa, Kenya, Grace Oyenubi, VOA News.
As we have mentioned, access to financing is a challenge for many women seeking capital to start a business in Africa. I spoke with Esther Desano, manager of Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa at the African Development Bank Group. She talked about what the program offers for women on the continent and provides them with advice for 2022 as the Bank Group program tries to close some of the financing gap for women.
The Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa is an initiative of the African Development Bank to close the 42 billion access to finance gap that exists for women entrepreneurs on the continent. I'm proud to say that the FAWA did fairly well amidst the challenges of the pandemic and so on and so forth. We've been able to get up to close to $550 million worth of financing approved by the African Development Bank throughout the year, which, by the way, for access to finance for women entrepreneurs on the continent is the biggest amount that the bank actually has approved for this segment in 1 year.
Now, we hear there's the $5 billion funding that's dedicated to such work. What are some of the target areas, some of the main areas that money is going to go to in 2022?
Okay, so the $5 billion for us is a target. As I said earlier, $42 billion is the gap. And we believe that if by our different financing mechanism, we can unlock up to $5 billion, it'll put us, if you will, in the right direction to reducing that gap. By putting at their disposal this guaranteeing mechanism, it means that women entrepreneurs can go to banks, to financial institutions, go through the process of asking for a loan, qualify for it without having to then be denied because they couldn't, put up the right type of a collateral. They don't have access to land, they don't have access to property that they can put up against the loan. And even if they do, it is the last thing that women entrepreneurs want to put up. In order for us to hit the $5 billion, we're very aware of the fact that it won't just be about us putting the money. It'll be about us showing financial institutions how to really access the women's market. What are the different risks that women entrepreneurs come with and how these risks need to be taken into account.
What are some of the things that AFAWA is doing to help women become bankable and trustworthy in the banking sector?
Sales enhancement is twofold. It's on the side of the institutions, but it's also on the side of the women themselves. And it's precisely about increasing their bankability. Understanding, first of all, how the financing sector works. What do they need to do as entrepreneurs in order for them to be bankable? And it's not just, it's the financial aspect and the accounting aspect of their company, but it's also the vision that they have for that company.
As an expert and also as a woman, what is one of your advice to women entrepreneurs in Africa in 2022?
First thing I will say is be bold. Don't be scared about financial institutions. Be bold. Go and see your banker. If you don't have one, then go and open an account very quickly and develop the relationship with your banker. The banks that we work with are creating programs that are specific for women entrepreneurs. These programs are the things that actually enable you as a woman entrepreneur to build the relationship with your banker, to get your banker to know you, to know your company.
What business ideas can women entrepreneurs on the continent borrow from others? Say in Asia? Let's go to India, where the business model for farming produce in Pakistan has been the same for years. However, a young female entrepreneur is attempting to change the male-dominated multi-billion-dollar industry by eliminating the middleman. VOA Saman Khan filed this report for Manawala, Pakistan, narrated by Bezhan Hamdar.
Fatima Zaka of Lahore City has come to Manawala village in the Punjab province with a message of modern farming. She advises local farmers to not just continue farming cabbage, as many in the area have done for years, but to branch out and grow Chinese cabbage, asparagus, and rocket leaves as well. However, farmers find it risky to begin new adventures.
The landowners are hesitant at first because so many things are unknown for them. But once they plant a small area and see that it is more beneficial, they tend to change to new concepts.
She's aiming to add new partners to her online shopping business, The Farmette, where customers can directly purchase fresh produce from farmers instead of going to a shopping center.
We started this platform 12 months ago as one-stop shop for premium organic grade A quality fresh produce that are locally produced and directly delivered to customers instead of imported goods from different places.
What began with one farm has grown to include 14 farms in 3 provinces across the country. Based on market need, Zaka advises partners on which vegetables or fruits they should cultivate.
Mushrooms and asparagus. Our farms have fresh mushrooms, asparagus, pesticide-free strawberries, kale, romaine lettuce. These are things that our customers demand the most.
Bakery shop owner Omar Nazir started Baked Lahore 2 years ago to showcase the products of home-based entrepreneurs, with over 800 products from roughly 120 of them on display, using organic fruits and vegetables from entrepreneurs like Zaka to make several baked delicacies.
People's expectations of premium products grew as exposure grew in Pakistan. There is a definite demand for it, and we initially underappreciated the demand.
Zaka aims to entice farmers to the high-quality produce grown locally so that they can sell it not only in Pakistan, but also internationally. In Pakistan, the implementation of modern farming should bring farmers up to speed with the demand of the modern world. For Saman Khan in Manawala, Pakistan, Bejan Hamdard, VOA News.
It's time for a break, but first a question for our audience. Which business ideas did you make happen after some hesitations and challenges, and what did you do to get motivated? Did you just do it? Please share your tips on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is @VOA Our Voices. We are also on WhatsApp. Our number is on the bottom of your screen. When we come back, we look into the diaspora to see what motivated women to start their own businesses. I spoke with Anita Pearson, founder and CEO of For All Coils, a brand promoting natural hair extension for Black women in the U.S.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. Do you live in the diaspora and are thinking about starting a business? If so, please pay close attention to this next interview. I spoke with Anita Pearson, who is originally from Ghana and who is now a social worker in the US. She decided to switch gears and become the founder and CEO of For All Coils, a company and brand that comes to help Black women find beautiful natural hair extension pieces that matches their natural hair type. She begins telling me how the idea came about.
I had this idea because when I was pregnant with my son, my first child 9 years ago, I was worried about using perms and other straightening hair products that could potentially affect my health negatively and the health of my unborn child. So I said, you know what? Let me just join the natural hair movement and do the big chop of cutting all my permed hair, which was back length. But during the transitional phase, I did not have any hair extensions that matched my 4C hair type. So it was very difficult to go through that phase with either having to just braid my hair, or which I did not have time for as a new mom and a newborn, sitting for hours to do that, or using extensions that essentially did not match my hair type. So fast forward years later, I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it, because if I am going through this process or this problem, other women must be going through the same issue too, and they need a solution. And so that's when I said, I'm going to launch this brand for all coils, and here I am today.
For you, what was the toughest part where you probably thought, you know what, I should just give up. This is not for me. Let me just leave it alone. What was the toughest part for you in the process?
To be honest, the toughest part is going into a market that is oversaturated, because you have the major brands out there, the major hair companies out there that you tend to look at them and like, oh, wow, I'm really overwhelmed. But if you believe in what you're doing and you have a passion for it, and you know that you're operating in righteousness, it will come to fruition. Again, you have to do a lot of homework depending on what your company is or what kind of brand that you're trying to launch, and how you could achieve those goals in regards to your marketing strategy. You have different websites and platforms that you can use to try to attract your potential customers, whether she's going through the transitional phase or she wants to use color, or unfortunately, if she's going through a medical issue. We all want to feel our best, and I'm here for it.
What advice would you give to women who are trying to start a business, especially in the diaspora? What should they be looking forward to, or what are some tips that you can give them?
I will say, go for it. Go for it, honey. You know, you have your dreams. Go for it. I have 3 children, all under 9 years old, and it was tough, but you must learn how to manage your time. You must have a plan. You must do your research. You must do your homework. You must have your finances set on what you're planning on launching. You must know your potential customers and their needs. So I would say, go for it. You know, you have to have the mentality that I'm going to win. You can do it. And there's so many resources out there in the media, social media, YouTube, websites that you can actually go to learn, okay, what do I need to do? Because I did not have a blueprint on how to get anything done. I did my homework and I went after it. If I failed in something, I tried again. I never gave up.
Now, after 6 years of working for other people in Morocco, Muadju Diane, who hails from Ivory Coast, decided to embark on the entrepreneurship track to become the first Sub-Saharan African woman to open and run a school in Morocco. VOA Emmanuel Muadju Diaballe has her story.
The workday starts very early for Bam. Her mornings are busy and meticulously scheduled so that she can meet her responsibilities as the founder and school principal. School is a priority, so after making sure school buses arrive on time and all the teachers and students are present, Bam then tends to her own family. She says without the support from her husband and children, leading the school as principal could not be done. Despite daily challenges, running the school is much smoother now than when she founded the school 2 years ago.
When I arrived in Morocco, I looked for jobs, and there were 3 offers that came our way, either call centers or housekeeping or nanny work. So I chose to be a cleaning lady because I told myself that there is no stupid job. Then the opportunity presented itself to me as an educator in a local school where I was an educational assistant. In parallel to what I was doing, I took courses to get a diploma of education.
Today, Montagne Blanche employs 12 people, and all of them are proud to be part of the very first educational establishment founded and run by a Sub-Saharan woman.
It is a rather unique school. It is the first that exists in Casablanca, and it is adapted to the awakening and development of a child.
Leonie Massamba, mother of 2 students enrolled at the school, is visiting to pick up her children's quarterly report cards.
We are super satisfied because our eldest had a lot of shortcomings at the start, but today he expressed himself. It's beautiful to see your child evolve, flourish in society.
At Montagne Blanche, there are 3 levels of kindergarten curriculum, which complies with the standards set by Morocco's Ministry of Education in conjunction with the classic method and the Montessori method.
The Montessori method works better because the child makes himself responsible for the activity. He has self-confidence, self-esteem.
Ban is grateful to her home country, which allowed her to realize her dream and to fulfill it as an educator. She is a Sub-Saharan pioneer in the creation of schools in Morocco. Ban is now planning extension projects in order to move towards primary and secondary education. A report by Emmanuel Diaballe for VOA News.
It's time for another quick break. We want to remind you that we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is VOA Our Voices. When we come back, my co-hosts Semingesh, Amina, and Dimiake and I discuss some of what we have learned and seen in covering women going into business as entrepreneurs. Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. Today we're discussing the experiences of African women rising to become entrepreneurs despite challenges. I talk with my co-hosts and colleagues who have covered many stories on women entrepreneurs on the continent and in the diaspora. Ladies, thank you so much for always bringing your very valuable points to the conversation, especially today we're talking about business and women going into this adventure of being entrepreneurs. What have been some of the challenges that you've seen or some of the solutions that they use to get ahead? Let's start with you, Amina.
One of the main challenges that the women face is the ability to leave the house and, interact with the rest of society freely. Obviously, because I come from a conservative society. A lot of these women have said that social media has played a major part in being able to build their business. So they're able to advertise, they're able to, transact and interact with other people without ever leaving their houses. They maintain their dignity, they maintain social decorum, and they're still able to achieve and build their businesses. Essentially, there's a lack of standardization in a lot of African communities. And you find that it's as though it's organic. So a lot of people start their businesses organically. And then the regulations come from the government as time goes. And so for some people, it becomes an obstacle. And so although there's no solution, I think women would like to see more awareness campaigns before new policy is implemented.
That makes sense. Now, Ndimi, in your coverage of women entrepreneurs, what are some of the challenges you're constantly seeing, and what are some of the solutions that they seek and find?
Unfortunately, a lot of the women who I've profiled or come across, they have a lot more imagination and creativity than their pockets can allow them to really expand on that business. So a lot of the times you have these amazing ideas, women who are really empowered to do great things, but then they're short of money. And then, of course, getting the money now to be able to pursue sometimes really innovative, really creative things. I know several women throughout the continent who are, say, importing shoes and handbags and clothes, but then good quality handbags and clothes and shoes, which come at a cost. So most of the times people have to travel out of the country, go to China, go to India to really source these materials. And a lot of the times the money is the problem. And then, of course, you have a lot of women who are trying to hustle, but at the same time, they are raising children. They're raising families, and it's difficult to be this creative, very on-the-go businesswoman when you've still got to take care of the kids on a day-to-day basis. So it's a real big challenge for a lot of women on the continent. Here in the US and in the diaspora, I also see that a lot of women do strive to do, very creative business, especially cross-continentally. Here in the US, working and, trying to also meet the needs of their fellow citizens in the countries that they come from. But then they're encountered by all these other obstacles, trade barriers, shipping costs, and also trying to just amass products on one end to satisfy a market on the other, or vice versa. So I think that it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of trying. A lot of women really are ambitious and they are very creative, but they just meet a lot of obstacles that, I think maybe with more governmental support, maybe with more spousal support and more, community support, they could do so much more.
That's true. When women are trying to become business owners while they have children, that one is a big one. That one is a big one because it's almost as, you're dragging your feet trying to run, but
exactly,
your family responsibilities are always right there. What do you think, Seminish?
Well, I mean, you all raised, very interesting points because I also met a lot of young and, creative, bold women who love being above their challenge, especially when they enter into businesses. And that's especially because women in Africa, specifically talking about the women in Africa, they are entering a space that culturally excluded women for a long time. So the challenge starts from, lack of opportunities. As Ndimi pointed, most of these women are expected just to be responsible for family or household. So they are not supported, they are not encouraged. So most of them don't even have role models to look up to or learn from. And also, women in Africa starting a business, when they start businesses or when they become entrepreneurs, they lack trust from the community. People don't have the same faith they have for male, that they will be successful or that they will manage to do it. And in addition to that, most of the women I talk to say they face sexual demands from business partners or stakeholders they have to work with. Oftentimes they say sex is on the table so that they can get something done. But these are additional challenge they face in addition to
especially for women who are in cities, suburban women.
Exactly.
Rural women, they have no choice. They go into business because that's pretty much either you have to be a farmer or sell something. But in the cities, that's very common. I agree.
Yes, that's one of the challenges, as you said, in cities, in developed countries, even in the diaspora, women face that oftentimes.
Now that's our program for this week. Special thanks to Anita Pearson, founder and CEO of For All Coils brand, and Esther Desanu, manager of Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, and of course my Our Voice colleagues and co-hosts, Semingesh, Amina, and Dimiake. On behalf of everyone at VOA, I'm Oriani Tangishaka. Good day.